These days he's most famous for his work with Edward D. Wood Jr., but before and even after those 3 films he made with Eddie, he was popular all over the US for his amazing predictions. His prognostications were in over 200 newspapers nationwide, and he was a television star. Today I present a 7-minute, totally incomplete biography of the Amazing Criswell. He was born Jeron Criswell King on August 18, 1907 in Princeton, Indiana. His parents were Charles and Anna King. He had 2 siblings, brother William and sister Clara. The family lived in a home, or maybe it was a hotel. According to Criswell in his book Criswell Predicts, I was raised in the King house, the family hotel. I thought anybody who lived 7 miles away was a foreigner, and I was shocked to find out they didn't know who I was. The town certainly knew who I was, as I would not let them forget. He claims to have never talked until age 4, and that was for his first prediction. He wrote, "During an Indiana thunderstorm, I started to talk and have not stopped until this day. I told my shocked parents that the rain will stop." My first prediction, a valid one. One story that has gone around was that his family owned a funeral parlor and he began sleeping in coffins when he was very young. I'm not sure where the story came from. According to his father's obituary, his father had been in the insurance business all his life. I have read that as an adult he did collect coffins and perhaps he slept in them. He went to Princeton High School, in which he graduated in 1926, then served as a carrier for the Daily Democratic newspaper. After high school, he went to the Cincinnati Conservatory of Music. He claims to have tried various jobs like teaching, working in a mortuary, the city morgue, and ambulance jockey, a newspaper, and newscasting, all the time finding that his predictions were becoming more and more accurate. By 1936, he was living in New York and began to write plays. His first was an adaptation of Oscar Wilde's The Picture of Dorian Gray, in which he played the title character. Also in the play was Louise Howard, who was born Myrtle Louise Stonesifer. He wrote another few off-Broadway plays while in New York, usually starring Louise. They even wrote a couple of books, How to Crash Broadway and How to Crash Tin Pan Alley. Neither book was very well received by the critics. Soon they took the Dorian Gray play to California, and on September 20th, 1940, Criswell and Louise Howard, who was now using the name Halo Meadows, married. It was also at this time he began another career, a new personality that some say Halo helped him create. In 1942, he appeared at the Spiritualist Science Church, and then as a regular speaker at the English Psychic Society as the Reverend Jeron King Criswell D.D. At the Church of the Inner Voice, he was Dr. Jeron K. Criswell. And by September, he was being called the American Nostradamus, now billed just as Criswell. And as far as I can tell, he was still appearing on the stage in the Dorian Gray play. Somewhere along the lines, he became good friends with actress, singer, comedian, screenwriter, and playwright Mae West. West really believed in his psychic powers and even sang a song called Criswell Predicts.
Turned on my television to Lucky Channel 13. Tuned in Mr. Criswell, he sure was on the beam.
With his predictions, with his convictions.
She would use him as her personal psychic. In 1953, his syndicated column was in over 200 newspapers, and he began appearing on a TV show called Criswell Predicts. The story of how this happened varies, but it goes something like this. He was selling something called Criswell's Vitamins, a worthless diet supplement. He began buying short bits of TV time to advertise, and he would make predictions at the end. Soon the vitamins were no more, but his predictions were very popular. The show, which was reportedly 5 minutes long, was on the air from 1953 to 1961. Unfortunately, none of these shows survived.
Greetings, my friend. We are all interested in the future, for that is where you and I are going to spend the rest of our lives, whether you like it or not. You go along with that, do you?
While he made many crazy predictions, it was one that really brought him to the attention of the public. After John F. Kennedy became president, on the Jack Paar Show, Criswell predicted that he wouldn't run for re-election in 1964 because something was going to happen to him in November of 1963. It was his friendship with Mae West that led to another longtime friendship. Mae wanted to meet television horror host Vampira, played by Mayla Nurmi. Criswell introduced himself to her while she was buying a chili dog after one of her shows, telling her that West really wanted to meet her. After that day, Mae West would often send her chauffeur with food to Criswell, which he would share with Vampira. And it was around this time he met Edward D. Wood Jr. No one's quite sure how they met, but it was most likely in a TV studio where Criswell was working. It was in 1956 that he agreed to be in the film Grave Robbers from Outer Space. While the film would premiere with that title in 1957, it would be retitled in 1958 as Plan 9 from Outer Space. Criswell predicts! Edward D. Wood Jr. will start a new trend of classic terror films out of Hollywood, utilizing the best combined movie and TV techniques, plus a new type of horror makeup. Criswell would also appear in Eddie's film Night of the Ghouls in 1959, a film that would not be released until 1984. And then there was the Ed Wood written Orgy of the Dead in 1965. While these days he's known for those films, back then it was his foretelling of the future that most knew the name Criswell, and he kept it up for the rest of his life. Criswell wrote several books of his predictions, including the 1968 Criswell Predicts From Now to the Year 2000. A fun read if you ask me. Criswell claimed to be 86% accurate. I think this book proves otherwise. In 1969, he made the newspapers again, but for another reason. He was arrested for stealing stolen property. Pleading no contest, he paid a small fine. In 1974, Criswell and Halo were legally separated, but they still kept in touch until his death. And that death happened on October 4th, 1982. Jeron Criswell King died of a stroke in Burbank, California. He was 75 years old. Did Criswell believe in his own abilities, or was it a scam? According to writer Charles A. Coulomb, whose family rented an apartment from Criswell, he told my father that he had the ability to tell the future when he was young, but when he started taking money for it, he lost it.